All Hallows Eve draws closer, an ethereal wind drifts through the veil and across the worlds of LARP, carrying whispers of dark tales and secrets untold, from their world to yours. These are Larptales from Beyond. I'm Max Sterling, and welcome to LarpMix. This Hallows Eve, I'd like to share with you a true story, similar to what I did last year. Now, I do certainly enjoy making up tales and telling you sort of the campfire stories, but I also have a few real stories that have happened to me that sort of surround LARP. So I'm going to share one of those with you today, and I will title this tale, Don't Always Follow Your Dreams. So, a little bit about me, and nobody knows this. I keep it very secret and very private, so the fact that I'm putting this out there right now for you, my viewers, and anyone else who sees this, now this will not be a secret untold. But I, for several years, have come to the conclusion that I have some degree of psychic ability. Good. This is the point where you laugh. I keep a psychic journal, and a psychic journal is actually exactly what it sounds like. Anytime I have some sort of psychic, episode, I don't know, a vision, a dream, a feeling, I write it down. I skip the ones that are fairly vague. I don't want, I had a strange feeling when I walked past this house today, unless it's an incredibly strange feeling, or I had a reoccurring dream about this house, or something like that. It has to be something real, because I personally am not really someone who believes or is into that. However, over the years, I've written things in my journal, and usually at the time I don't know what they mean, and then later they manifest in some way, and some meaningful way. In other words, I have a good feeling about this, or a bad feeling about that, and I try to be very specific when I write in there, so that way when it happens, I'm not searching for something that fits into my description. It actually is something that occurs. And I think anyone that feels as though they have this ability, they know it's not, oh, well, what's the lottery numbers for tomorrow? It doesn't work that way. But that being said, I keep a psychic journal, and if there's any interest, maybe I would do a longer video on that. But for the purpose of this tale, I need you to understand that aspect of me. So this occurs many years ago when I was much younger. Me and a group of, I would say, 3 or 4 guys, we would go out in the woods and we would LARP. We made our own LARP. A lot of you will ask me, oh, I don't live near LARP, or how do I get started in LARP? There's no one around me that does it. Well, guess what? Get a couple friends that are like-minded, or you maybe take your tabletop role-playing group and then you take it to the streets. So that's exactly what we did. We played actively in a LARP at that time. However, one event every couple months just wasn't enough. So we decided to do our own LARPs. And one place we played was a place called Raccoon Hill. I'll change some of the names, but that's pretty close to what it's called. So anyways, I began to have dreams at some point about this location. It wasn't very far from where we were. It was certainly trespassing to get to the location. None of us owned the property. Our parents didn't own the property. I believe it may have been state-owned or possibly owned by a utility, because it was right off of a gas line. But we would go there and we would play because no one was there. It was somewhat secluded. Well, I began having dreams at some point about this location, and I would have very vivid dreams of me going there and walking into the woods to a sort of predetermined point. I didn't know exactly where I was going, but I knew I was facing a certain orientation and I would make a left. So I had a generalized idea of where this dream was taking me. So in the dream, I walk through the woods to a certain point, and there is a light, some sort of light source coming from something. And there I encounter some sort of being. I don't really know what. The dreams aren't very clear. We could insert something if we wanted to push it into things that weren't clear in the dream. I could make it up and say it was aliens or ghosts or something. But I'm just going to say that there was some sort of being there. Was not an animal, was not a person, but some sort of entity. And we'll leave it at that. You can fill in whatever you care to. But there is also this light source in the middle of the dark woods. There's nothing with lights on out there. There was nothing there. So I keep having this dream, and it's very vivid. And one other thing you should know about me is that I do not have dreams that I remember very often. Most nights I go to sleep, I fall asleep within 5 or 6 seconds, and I wake up the next day. I do not have dreams as people would describe them. So when I do have them and I can remember them, I think that there might be some sort of importance to that. So I usually try to pay attention to them, but especially if I have a recurring dream. So I had this dream for a long time, months, and eventually I told the guys that I wanted to run a game, and I wanted to stay over up on this Raccoon Hill. And I say Raccoon Hill, but it's pretty sizable hill. I wouldn't call it a mountain, but it was mountainous. And it took a little bit of time to get to it. So they agreed. So we went up and we played our game, and we set up camp, and we stayed over for the evening. Now, sometime during the night, let's say before everyone went to sleep, I think 2 people were sleeping, the other 2 were up and they were stoking the fire and stuff. I decided that, hey, I would follow my dream. So I told them, hey, I gotta, go in the woods. I have to go to the restroom or something. So I stood the direction that I knew I wanted to stand. I made my left and I just started walking. Now, because this was on a ridge, it's not really very hard to get lost or anything. I mean, if you start heading downhill, then you're going away from camp. So I knew as long as I just stayed straight and followed the ridge that I knew where my camp was, so I could always turn around at any time and go back, even if I was out of the light of the camp. So I started walking, and I am not the type of person that enjoys walking in pitch dark woods alone at night with nothing to protect myself. That's not something that I particularly enjoy doing. I know some people may like it. It's not high on my list of things to do. So I walk and I walk and I walk, and then finally I decide, I'm just going to sit here and wait for a minute. And everything's quiet. It's very peaceful. And I'm just sort of sitting there against a tree. And several minutes later, I notice that there's ambient lighting. It's kind of like in a horror movie or some sort of film where if you're watching it and paying attention, you're just like, oh, this person is running through the woods and someone's chasing them. But where's all the light coming from? Like, it's not moonlight. There's just like light from behind trees and stuff. It's like, where is the ambient light coming from? This makes no sense. It would be pitch black in these woods when these people are chasing them. Why is there all this weird ambient lighting coming just like from behind trees and stuff? Next time you watch a film, keep that in mind, and you'll never be able to watch a movie again because you'll always just be like, where's all this lighting coming from? But that's sort of what it was like. I noticed that there was light coming from somewhere in front of me, probably about 20-25 feet. I'm not sure what that is in meters, but we'll say not very far, maybe like 2 rooms away worth of steps. So I sat there very still, looking at this sort of light, trying to figure out what it could be, and it was sort of greenish, which did not make my mind any easier or my heart any more still to see some sort of strange green light emanating. Now, I also told no one this story. Like I said, even up till now, I don't think I've told anyone this story ever. You're the first. So no one was pranking me or anything like that. Plus, no one would have been able to get around me. My friends aren't that quiet. So I knew immediately that it wasn't some sort of prank. So I sat there for quite some time. I mean, not hours, but at least several minutes, just being quiet and observing, and trying to muster the courage to walk over. So finally I did get up and I started walking, and I would say I got to within about 10 feet of this light source. Now, most of it was concentrated around the base of a tree, but there was some sort of little areas where I could see this sort of greenish light. And it was very dim. Keep in mind, I'm in pure darkness in the woods. This was not a moonlit night. It was very dark, except for this light source. And I stopped probably about 10 feet up from it, and I lean against a tree, and I wait, because in my dream, when I approach the light source is when I encounter the entity. So I keep a little bit of distance and I just observe, and everything's fine. I'm once again trying to sort of just build up the courage, take those last few steps to see what the heck it is. And my rational mind saying, oh, it's just it's got to be whatever. But I'm standing there, and all of a sudden from my side I hear movement. Movement not like chipmunks or squirrels running through leaves, but movement large enough for, say, something deer-sized, I don't know, bear-sized, say human-sized, to be moving around. When I heard that sound, now if I had been a little bit younger, I may have, had an accident, being, in my upper teens, I was able to hold at least my bodily functions together, but I froze. I mean, if you've ever had an experience where just like something happens and there's sort of like that deep breath, your heart sinks. If it was a cartoon or a movie, you'd probably breathe out, a visible breath, but one of those type of moments, and I just froze in place. I heard the movement, and it was certainly heading towards where that light was, and it was slightly ahead of and to the left of me, and I tried my hardest to see through the darkness what it could have been, and eyes are trying to focus, and I have really good vision, and I just couldn't grasp a form. And as soon as I regained some control and was unparalyzed, I immediately turned around and left. I headed right back to camp. By this time when I came back, the other two that were awake had actually woken the other two, so everyone was awake. They were trying to keep the fire going and not doing a very good job, and I told them, I said, hey, you know what? Let's just go back down to our houses and we'll just call this quits. So we left all of our stuff, because we didn't feel like packing up. This was pretty early in the morning, I don't know, maybe like 2:30 or 3 a.m. And we all hiked back down to the kid who lived closest to this hill, and we just slept in his basement. The following day, we went back up to the camp to get our stuff. I was not very excited to do this. However, I knew it would afford me an opportunity in the daylight to go see what it was. So, I brought a pocket knife with me, and when we went up there, we got everything together, and I told them once again, hey, I gotta, duck off into the woods for a minute. I walked back to approximately where I thought I was the night before, and the only thing that I noticed there was some moss or lichen around the tree, and I did a little bit of research later and found that we do have moss and lichen that sort of glows in my area, which if you've never seen such a thing, it's pretty interesting and pretty cool actually. There's like moss or lichens out there that actually glow. They emit their own light. It's a very small amount of light though. I would tell you to this day that after rationalizing that, that makes me feel a lot better. However, the amount of light being emitted by that, if that is in fact what it was, is far more than what I've seen in videos. And I don't know 100% that that moss or lichen that I found actually was the type that glows. But what I can tell you is that I dreamt this, I followed my dream, and I arrived at a place where my dream would have, you know, reached its apogee, its climax, and then the resolution. Well, I didn't allow it to go that far because in my dream, I don't know what happens after I meet the entity. That's the point where I'd always wake up in the dream. You follow into the woods, you follow the will-o-wisp or whatever it is, you follow the foxfire, the light into the forest, and here's the entity. Those stories don't end well, okay? So I got to that point and I ran. And I think despite what pop singers, your school guidance counselor, maybe your parents would say, I would tell you that perhaps you should not always follow your dreams, because sometimes those dreams may in fact be nightmares. I hope you enjoyed this story, but fear not, for this is just a tale of my world. Just hope that my words were the only thing crossing through the veil from my world to yours. And, of course, as always, adventure on. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We're doing a collaboration with a bunch of other channels. I'll have some links to their videos. I'll try to make a playlist. But if you want to listen to some stories that are LARP or LARP adjacent or LARP related, check out all these awesome videos that people are putting together. It's all LARP content creators that are on YouTube, so if you're not familiar with all the channels, this is a good chance to see some other channels. Like I said, I'll have some links below, links on here, so please check those out. If you have any questions about my story, feel free to comment below. I'll try to respond as best I can. Have you ever had an occurrence like this? Have you ever had an instance like this where you had a strong feeling about a place or perhaps a dream? Man, comment that below. I'd love to hear about it. I really would. You can also email me too. My email address is down at the bottom. I hope you don't think I'm, making this all up, because it is something I definitely have an interest in. So I'd love to hear, for sure, if you have had similar experiences. But please be sure to check out these other channels. If you like this video, like, subscribe, all the stuff. I have merch below. If you're interested in supporting my channel in that way. The shirts and stuff are all high quality. I have some myself, very cool stuff. If you have any ideas or suggestions for videos, please also always drop those below. I still owe my viewers one additional video that I missed a few months back. I'm going to try to get that out by the end of the year. But for right now, I just wanted to make sure we had something fun to do for this holiday season.